Today on the Ask Brady Show, we talk about the way millennials approach social media, the way Gen Z approaches social media, the way Gen X approaches social media, and the differences between all of them. Well, hey there, Pro Church Nation, and welcome to the Ask Brady Show, episode number 35. We've got 4 great questions from the people of Pro Church Nation, and I'm joined, as always, to my left, your right, it's Roxanne.
It's true.
True it is. Behind the camera, the editing wizard himself, Joe Nex. And the man with the cam, Alex Mills.
Thanks. It's not really as special as it sounds because I work here, but I'm here.
All right, Roxanne, let's get this train going and take us away with the first question.
All right, so the first question comes from Owen, and he sent in a video.
Hey Brady and Roxanne, Owen here. I recently got hired onto my church as the creative director, and I oversee social media, branding, all that kind of stuff in our church. I've been implementing a lot of the stuff you guys have talked about on the show, and it's been working awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all that. I wanted to ask you, do you have any input into teen or youth ministry social media strategies? Like, I know you've talked about like millennials and like main like weekend church stuff, which like say doing different posts and stuff like that. But teens and youth are kind of, from what I like to in a way, a kind of totally different thing. And I'm wondering if you have any input into kind of content, what kind of posts, even if you have like a strategy already built out on like, try this. Our main platform is Instagram right now. We do have like a Facebook and a Snapchat, but those are Facebook's mainly for like parents if they want to know anything. So yeah, what do you have to say? What would you advise? So thanks so much.
Thanks for the question, Owen, and congrats on your new position at your church. Very exciting. And I think you bring up an interesting and important topic that we should be discussing. Every time I go and see my family, whether it's for, Thanksgiving's around the corner, Christmas, just heading to the grandparents where a bunch of people are gathered, I always stop and ask my cousins. I have like almost no cousins, but I do have 2 in high school right now. And I'll always ask them, hey, what's going on with social? What are you listening to? Music-wise, what are you watching? What's kind of like happening in your world? Because I'm very fascinated with Generation X, which is the generation behind millennials that is so young at this point that there's not too much research on them. When you're a minor, there's certain rules. And so usually the research isn't really done until, they're in their 20s and early 30s. And we're starting to see that with millennials, right? There's a reason like so much millennial content is coming out now, because finally this generation is old enough where this research and studies can take place in real and kind of like deeper ways. But what I've seen, it's very true between, let's say, our generation and the generation behind us, is this fundamental difference in the way that they and we approach social media. And a lot of the time it's easy to just look at like the platforms that people are using, like right. Gen X uses Snap, grandparents use Face, we use Stuh. I'm shortening.
Yeah, none of those are real.
I'm shortening Insta even more to just Stuh. Point being, that, I think, is like a surface level way of viewing things. I think a more important and helpful view is looking at kind of the fundamental differences between the generations and how they approach social fundamentally in different ways. The biggest one is that when we got on social, MySpace, then Facebook, Twitter, the first 3 big ones, the way that content posting was facilitated was in the form of one to many. What I mean by that is you would post something, and then many people would engage with that content. So if you post something on Facebook, all of your friends or the entire world, depending on your privacy settings, will be available to see that and consume that. Same with Twitter, same with MySpace. But then stuff like Instagram and really Snapchat came out, where it was less about one to many and more one to one. Mm-hmm. Social media became more personable, where it wasn't so much about what I was posting publicly for the world to see. It was more about what I was posting to you through DM, through one-to-one. It was more about relationship online. back and forth, one to one, or one to few, not one to many. And that's the fundamental difference that I see here. And that's why Snapchat really grabbed such a hold. And that's why Instagram has, replicated their features, because they were a platform for younger people. And by replicating Snapchat's features, they've been able to kind of like really solidify themselves as that platform for younger people. So that's the fundamental difference that I really think that you need to approach social with. Of course, how does that apply to youth ministry? If all of the communication is happening behind the scenes one-to-one, a lot of people get a little bit afraid of that. There's some trepidation, fear that this could be misused or abused, which of course anything and everything can be, will be, won't be. Like, humans do amazing things and we do terrible things regardless of the medium. Not saying that doesn't mean you shouldn't proceed with caution, but also don't blame the medium for the actual human behind the actual abuse. So, with that being said, you mentioned Instagram is your kind of biggest focus, and I think that's the right thing to do. And we talked about this on last week's episode of Ask Brady a bit, but this week we had a really great example in-house of just the power of Instagram, in particular Instagram stories. So on Monday, we launched the official StoryTape Instagram account. I don't think I've mentioned StoryTape actually what it is on Ask Brady yet, but we have announced it. Basically, StoryTape is a new platform, a new product that we're launching in November, and it is a stock video site that gives you access to unlimited stock video downloads on one subscription. There's no other site that does this. If you try to download stock video, it's going to cost you between $200 and $500 per single 4K clip, which is, of course, obscene, and almost no church can afford that. What we're doing is, for less the cost of one clip somewhere else, you can get access to our unlimited catalog, more than 5,000 clips, 4K, ProRes. We're adding more than 1,000 new clips every single month. It's an amazing new thing that we've been working on behind the scenes for close to a year. Spent $100K on the actual platform, the search archive matrix, and the hosting and all of that. It's going to be amazing. So, that being said, we launched the Instagram account for StoryTape this Monday at StoryTape. If you're not following it, please go and do. The team is doing an amazing job on that. What did I do to promote the StoryTape Instagram account? Up until this point where I said, go follow it on the mic, I have done one thing. And that one thing is to open up my personal @BradyShearer Instagram account, create a story that basically said, hey, we launched a new Instagram profile. Go follow it. If you follow us, we'll give you a follow back. About 1,300 people watched that Instagram story. And as of right now, 5 days later, this is Friday when we're recording this, Monday was when we launched the account, we have close to 1,000 followers on that Instagram profile. I know.
Yeah, I'm proud of my 500 followers.
The amount of response and engagement to that Instagram story is something that I have never, ever seen online in the world of social, digital, communication, anything. 1,000 out of 1,300. Like, even if it was 500 out of 1,000, like a 70%, 80% conversion rate, like that's unheard of. Like, I know we were offering a follow back, like an incentive, but that's not really that big of a thing. Like, for people to be that engaged, to watch a story and then take that action is unlike anything, like I said, I've ever seen. And so I would keep investing in both Instagram stories and Instagram posts. And to really bridge the gap between this one-to-many and one-to-one or one-to-few approach, I think Instagram stories is the perfect kind of bridge for that. Because, yeah, it's still one-to-many, but it feels like it's more intimate. It feels more personal. It feels more one-to-one, right? Like, if you are a youth group or a student ministry, you're maybe not going to be able to do too much when it comes to one-to-one, although I highly recommend that you get in the DMs. Like, so much amazing stuff is happening within the DMs on my personal account, and I highly recommend you do the same thing. But Instagram Stories is probably the perfect in-between that bridges the gap between those two worlds. And the engagement is higher than anything else on the internet right now. To prove another point, we launched the StoryTape account, 1,000 people followed. Yesterday, the Instagram story on the StoryTape account, @StoryTape, that Instagram story expires in 24 hours. It got 700 plus views. And yesterday it had 880 followers. 7 out of 8 people watched the story. You post something on Facebook, 1 out of 1 million of your followers will see it. You post something on Twitter, 1 out of 100 will see it. 7 out of 8 on Instagram stories. It's just insanity. You know, all of these things last for a while and then they morph, but now is the time to jump on in, go hard with Instagram stories, recognize the fundamental difference between millennials and older who approach social generally in a one-to-many approach, and Gen Z, younger millennials who approach it in a one-to-one or one-to-few approach. Recognize that fundamental difference, apply it in your social practices and strategies, and you should be able to get some traction.
Sweet. All right, question 2 comes from Paul, and he also sent in a video.
Hi Brady, I'm Christopher. This is Paul.
Hello.
We are part of the media team. We are recording this from Chennai, India. We have a question for you today. We follow your content every week, and we thank you for uploading quality content every single week. So Paul is going to take over now.
Yeah, hi Brady. Hi Roxanne. So we record Sunday morning sermons, okay, and we host them on SoundCloud, and we have a RSS feed of the SoundCloud to Apple's iTunes podcast. So we want to promote our audio sermons on Facebook and social media in general. So my question is, we have the same product, one product being the audio sermons, and what we can do is we can slap 2 different labels on it, SoundCloud and podcast, and sell it, which we don't want to do. We want our viewers to go to one place and get the content there. So I was hoping you will give us a guideline on how to do about it, or for both iOS and Android. That's the major platforms our people are using here. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for the question, gentlemen. Similarly to the last question, I think that while this is a specific question, it is going to give insight into kind of like a fundamental underlying of way that communication best works. And I think you guys nailed it on the head. You want to have a single place where everyone can go and experience, listen, subscribe to, rate, and review your podcast. We do this with the Pro Church podcast. Instead of me saying like, hey, go to Apple Podcasts, go to Stitcher, go to Spotify, go to SoundCloud, where we are at, all of those. Maybe not yet Spotify. Soon, hopefully. Basically, I always say, go to prochurchpodcast.com. And there are links to Apple, Google Play, Stitcher, comment, leave a review, subscribe. All of those links live at our one home base. And this speaks to the difference between what you might call online your home base and where you have kind of like, I don't know, camps that are set up. Michael Hyatt uses different terms in his book Platform, which is a tremendous book that I read when I was first starting Pro Church Tools on a vacation in Florida. The first vacation I went on with Brittany, my wife, and I remember sitting in like by the pool and reading this book and dreaming about online business. I always have fond memories of that. But the point is that there was like your home base, and then there were these camps. Your home base is the entity that you own. That is something that you're 100% in control in. Whereas the camps were where you were setting up camp on someone else's property. And both are necessary, and both have pros and cons. Let's start with the camps that you set up. The pro, Facebook, Apple, YouTube, SoundCloud, these platforms have amassed huge audiences and huge amounts of attention. And they're willing to give you some of that attention, really give you access to the entire platform if you're willing to play by their rules. The con, of course, is that you don't own that. So Facebook, SoundCloud, these platforms can get up, change the rules whenever they want, and you could lose some of, if not all, of what you invested. Think about the people that are invested on SoundCloud. They're going through significant financial troubles right now. The future of the company is very much up in the air. People don't know, is it going to close down? It's not as profitable as people expected. Investors are upset. If SoundCloud goes up and like messes everything up and they just close down, all of the DJs and the producers and the podcasts that have been living on there only are going to be in big trouble. You see this with vloggers. If you use YouTube as like your only platform, if YouTube goes up and changes everything, you're going to be in serious trouble. So that's why you need to have the home base. The home base, it's the platform that you own. It's your website. You are in charge of it. No one's going to take it from you. But the attention there is almost certainly not as big as the attention on the other massive platforms. And that's why you need both. So for this podcast strategy, you want to be in as many places as you possibly can. Google Play, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify. But instead of saying on a Sunday morning or in a promotion that is church-wide, hey, here are the 18 places you can find our podcast. Send them to one place that will then direct them to the individual place that person will best need to go. Because maybe Roxanne has an Android and I have an iPhone. And so she wants to get connected to the podcast through Google Play, and I'm going to listen in Apple Podcasts or my podcast app of choice or Spotify or whatever it is or SoundCloud. But if you just have that one place that you can always send someone, whether SoundCloud shuts down, Spotify allows your podcast in there, Apple changes the rules, you can always send them to that same place. For us, that's prochurchpodcast.com. And for you, I recommend setting up something similar.
All right, sounds good. Next question comes from Daniel, and he says, I really enjoy all the content you provide. Thank you. My question is, what are the best software options for projecting in our meetings? We use PowerPoint presently. It is easy to use, but very limited compared to what I see in large churches in the USA or Europe. What software can we use considering that we have very low resources?
Now, this is a question that we get a lot. And the reason that we haven't answered it up until now is because I don't have too much firsthand experience with worship software. For basically my entire life in church, I've been in the band, like never missing a Sunday, playing one of the instruments, singing, leading, whatever it was. And so I haven't really been ever in the tech booth. With that being said, I am familiar with, the big major players in this space. And really, there's one industry standard for this, and that is ProPresenter. It's by a company called Renewed Vision. And if you're seeing the large churches, they're almost certainly using ProPresenter. ProPresenter starts at $400 for the cost, which, if that's going to be like one of the biggest things that helps you accomplish a Sunday morning, $400 is something that maybe you want to invest in. And of course, there are other options. There's Easy Worship. There is Proclaim. And there are others that worship how song select Easy Worship. Media Shouts, that's it. There's Media Shouts. All of these options are kind of like a tier below ProPresenter, but I do want to make a special note of Proclaim, because while ProPresenter costs $400, that's the starting point of the license, and it can become more if you're multi-campus or the size of your church. That is like you buy it, and then you own it.
Right.
And then if you need to upgrade in the future, you buy it again. It's kind of the way that Photoshop and like Adobe products used to work. Like you'd buy Photoshop 10, and then in 2 years, Photoshop 11 would come out, and they'd give you a discount, but it would cost you to upgrade again. Proclaim, on the other hand, is sold on a monthly software as a service model. So I think it's as low as $16 per month, and that'll give you access to the entire platform and all the upgrades that they continue to add. But not a one-time purchase. You'll have to pay that each and every month.
Right.
But I think that gives your church an option. If your church can't really put together the resources for like the $500 for that one-time fee, maybe the $16 per month is something more affordable. And it's also not lost on me, like the difficulty. I mean, these last two questions have been from, international churches. This one, Argentina, prior one from India. The conversion rate is sometimes like the deal breaker.
Yeah.
Like we're Canadians. We recognize and feel that pain as well. We pay our developers. They're all Americans. If I pay my developer $1,000 a day, which 5 of them get paid that's like $1,250 a day for us. Now, of course, we also charge in American dollars, so it's not as bad. But it hurts when you pay that invoice knowing that the money and charge that they're charging you is not the same that will be reflected on the bank account. And it's obviously exacerbated more in like developing nations. And so the point is here, like, that's not lost on me. But if you have very limited resources and the industry standard costs a bunch of money, either you find the way to pay for it or you just recognize that you get what you pay for. There are free types of worship presentation software available. There's open source options. There's one called, I think it's Quela, Quela, or Quelea. You can search free worship presentation software in Google, and there are a bunch. But, while I haven't used those firsthand, I got to imagine that you get what you pay for in that respect.
Right.
And, is something as simple as PowerPoint, like, what are you going to get from a really great presentation software? Tech is going to be easier. Maybe you can play motion backgrounds instead of just still backgrounds. Maybe playing videos would be easier. Is that worth the $500-ish plus the conversion rate? If it is, then go for it. If not, check out something like Proclaim, the small monthly price. If not, keep going with what you're doing with the free. Of course, the other option is try some open source, other free software. So you've got 4 options. Pros and cons to each. Experiment, and at the end of the day, hopefully you can find something that works for you.
Yeah. All right, last question. Comes from Instagram, so it's just a username. And he says, "Hey Brady, I have been trying to talk to my pastor about getting a website for our church, but he just won't say yes. We have a website currently, but it's from a free website, so the domain starts with their website name. And it doesn't just look professional. So my question is, what can I say or do to influence my pastor?"
The first thing I would say to your pastor is break down the demographics of your community. It doesn't say where this individual is from, but I'm going to guess North America, most likely based on our audience, it's American. Just go to your pastor and be like, look, the biggest demographic in our church is millennials. And what I'm about to say isn't just true for millennials, it's true for everyone, but it's not true for every single person, and it's going to be easier to persuade your pastor of this truth if you talk about it being the next generation, rather than you say, look, I know you don't believe this because maybe it's not you, but it's your generation as well. When people, millennials in particular, knowing that they're the biggest group in your city, community, region that you're trying to reach, when we are looking for something, we go to Google and we search for it. So today, I booked a night at the spa with my wife, 5-star dinner, staying at this nice hotel. It has all these fancy amenities, spa in the morning. When I booked this, the first thing I did was I Googled Niagara Spa. Bunch of options came up. I went to the one that was best reviewed and the one that was available. Simple as that. People are doing this in your city, looking for places of worship every single day, every single week. If you do not have a quality website that is SEO optimized and makes a great first impression, you are basically saying with your actions to the world, we do not care about you because people are searching for you and you're not being there to be found. People are saying, I want a church. And you're saying, okay, not us. That's fine because someone else is going to say, choose me. Just like one of the spas that I went to, I tried to find it and the pricing was bad and I couldn't figure out the site and I was like, all right, I'm not going to this spa. They lost my business because their website was clunky. I went to the other one. I searched availability. They had availability, all these different options. Choose this package, sign up, boom, 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 done. They got my money. Not a small amount of money because their website worked well. Your church's website in 2017 and beyond is your church's first impression. That is the bottom line. Your church's website is your church's first impression. Before they ever step foot in your building, they're going to search you out online 9 out of 10 times. So if your website makes a bad first impression, it might not even reflect properly on your church. You might have the most amazing, loving, community-based, rich in teaching, Holy Spirit, presence-filled church. And if your website is from a free website builder, I'm assuming you're a cult. Exaggeration maybe a little bit, but the point is that if I go to your website and it's clunky and it doesn't give me the information that I'm looking for, I don't know when you're meeting. I don't know what your church is like. Why are there no pictures on this site? Why is there a clip art of a cross? What does that mean? I mean, that you didn't create that clip art. That has nothing to do with your church. That's just a placeholder. At the end of the day, the best way to convince your pastor of anything is to always find what they care about, which should be the mission and vision of the church, which you should know. And if your pastor's mission and vision of the church is like every other church, which is to make disciples, love God, love people, serve the world, what you need to do is root your goal in that mission. And so I would go to your pastor, to him or her, and say, look, I know that our mission here is to make disciples and to reach the world. Here is the bottom line. People are searching out every single day and week in our city looking for churches. And right now they can't find us. And tie your ask with the mission of the church. Yep. What this is going to do is show your pastor, look, I care about our church's vision and mission. This isn't like my project that I want selfishly. I care about accomplishing what our church is setting out to do, what we believe God has asked us to do. And right now, I think we're not fulfilling that mission as best as we could in this area. What that's going to do is show your pastor that you care about his or her vision. You're bought into the goal of the church as a whole, and you're being proactive to help accomplish that mission. If they're still going to turn a blind eye when you use that great strategy, and at the end of the day, there are very few people at this point that would recognize that a church website isn't even important. If he or she is in that place, I mean, there's not even that much you can do about it, because that's not confusion. That's not even an opinion that should be even allowed to have. That's just willful ignorance. And there's only so much that you can do about someone like that. I don't believe that's a situation. I believe it just comes down to the correct positioning about what you want and what you're hoping to accomplish. It all comes down to tying your goal with their goal, finding the intersection between the two, the mission of the church, the mission of this website, creating that intersection, illustrating it, and then executing on it from there. Thanks so much for watching this episode of Ask Brady, episode number 35. If you want your question answered, it's super simple, Roxanne. All you have to do is send in a video question to hello@prochurchtools.com. Your question will be immediately sent to the top of the queue. You're going to pass everybody. You know, like the ride fast pass. We're like, you don't even have to wait for the roller coaster. You go to the special line. hello@prochurchtools.com is the email to send that to. You can also hashtag your question, Ask Brady, on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, below this video, wherever you want. We'll track it down. Thanks so much for watching, Pro Church Nation. Make sure you subscribe. And if you're not following the @StoryTape Instagram account,
do it.
Go to @StoryTape on Instagram and give us a follow. Let me tell you, I say this without any hyperbole because I am not involved in this project. The Instagram stories on the StoryTape Instagram account are unreal and likely unlike anything you've ever seen. So I highly recommend you go and check that out. And also, feel free to get on the launch list for StoryTape. If that unlimited stock video download subscription site sounded pretty sweet to you, go to storytape.com. Storytape.com. Enter your email. It'll give you an access to a lifetime discount when we do launch in November, and we'll put you on that launch list. So thanks so much for watching. Go seize the 167. We'll talk real soon.